Hello friends, I am Dr. Neerja Singh. Today's topic is caste, class and power in community. It is part of your paper on community media. This lecture will introduce you to the concept of the interrelations among caste, class and power and its interplay in the community. The lecture will provide you an idea about how these interrelations are connected with land ownership pattern and how, with the changing configurations of land ownership, there is a change in the power structure in the community. Caste, class and power. Changing forms and dynamics. Caste, class and power are extremely interlinked and play crucial role in Indian society. This lecture will attempt to sketch a historical development with the help of substantive materials at hand so as to reflect on their interrelationships. Whenever we discuss about power, generally we refer to land ownership pattern. Much has changed ever since independence in the dynamics of power relations within community. However, it is important to know what caused these transformations. Does the social indicators have any help in these transformations, if any? And finally, what happened in the process of transformation? Zamindari abolition and the development in agriculture practices were two episodes, not very dramatic in their impact in themselves, compared with, for example, land reforms and productivity growth in other developing regions, including the land reforms that did not, however, eradicate landlessness, nor did they prevent the persistence of massive inequalities of land ownership in India. Rajendra Singh in his study has presented an historical and contemporary data on rural elites and agrarian power structure in Indian village community. This study highlights the crucial aspect of land control as a source of power and examines the nature of elite formation. According to him, there is popular saying among the upper caste, especially among the Rajputs, that land belongs to the brave and powerful. This reflects faithfully the Rajput colonization of the region in the past. But in the contemporary situation, the saying is more applicable when reversed. Walter C. Neil had expressed the same regarding the continuing interface between land and power in India. The established elites compared to the emerging elites continue to own land and control larger land holdings in the community. The disproportionate ownership of large land holdings by the established elites reflects their ability to secure and maintain the basic source of their power in the agrarian setting. The changes that have occurred in land ownership pattern has also been reflected by Ram Subhash. The pattern of land ownership shows that the percentage of ownership of land holdings has decreased in all size groups. Village leadership and dynamics of power at the turn of the century, the caste such as the Brahmins, Rajputs, Kayas, so-called upper caste, are still at the helm of affairs economically, socially and a consequence in politics as well. Most studies have concluded that at least until the early 1990s, panchayat leadership and the supporting staff have remained in the hands of the landowning upper caste. Singh in his study has shown that OBCs and SCs were almost nowhere in the picture, and that Thakur Raj and Brahman Raj were still in place. This continuity of power in village leadership in UP in the past has been due to the continuity of the social and economic structure. The village social order in an equilibrium situation necessarily had to remain in the hands of those representatives of the dominant groups who could rely on their power to oversee the economic, social, cultural and moral changes. Litton and Srivastava say that the new methods implied at the time of the Panchayat elections underwrote the continuing domination of the ex-zamindar elite. The zamindari system, the village panchayat and the caste system were regarded as three institutional interdependent determinants of power system. Yogen Singh, on the basis of a study of 6 panchayats in the mid 1950s, concluded that the new democratic setup in the wake of the new Panchayat Raj Act of 1948 was an extremely radical step, but that since majority of the members still belonged to the ex-landlords and big farmers, the new democratic power system had not yet fructified. The power system has a tendency to incline in favor of the groups who can control the economic expectations of the people in villages. From this point, however, only future dynamics of rural power system will be directly responsible to the economic change introduced and the pattern of rural economic growth. The shift in power dynamics through economics and political changes seem to be inevitable. That the transition towards a new model, the open, democratic, participatory model in which neither class nor caste or gender operate as qualifiers of political participation, it presupposes a modification in the traditionally highly unequal access to economic and social resources. If changes have occurred in the economic equilibrium, then with the rise of new social groups, the traditional power dominance will be challenged. They say that Singh's prediction of the ephemeral nature of upper caste hegemony has not really been confirmed by developments since the 1960s. But yet, sometimes in the open, sometimes under the surface, significant and even turbulent changes have taken place, changing dimensions and emergence of new forms of relationships. The period from 1951 to 1991 is a significant period in modern Indian history because during this time, measures in the agrarian sector were introduced by the state government, which is part of the sovereign republic. It is also important since universal adult franchise made every section of agrarian society an inalienable part of the political process. The laws relating to the abolition of zamindari remained redundant in most part, and wherever they were implemented, they consolidated the position of the newly emergent peasant proprietors vis-a-vis the landless classes. And the laws relating to consolidation and sealing of land holdings benefited the better off sections of the peasantry. The nature of the agrarian system during the colonial period and changes brought about in the nature of relationships between the land owning and the landless classes have a bearing on the agrarian politics in the post-independence period. Expansion of railways and the construction of metal roads provided better transportation conditions for agricultural produce to reach the market. The development of the conditions and forces of production and the access to market gave a fillip to the commercialization of crops. Several tenants and self-cultivators lost their land due to indebtedness and were reduced to the status of hired laborers. The program of land ceiling remained redundant and unimplemented till the 1960s in UP due to several reasons, political and otherwise. Fresh efforts were made from the early 1970s to impose ceiling on the land holdings. This fresh move was encouraged by the land grab movement. Instead of proving to be a boon, the allotment of land to the poor and especially Harijans proved to be disadvantageous to them. It provided an illusion to them that they were landowners and were therefore distant from looking for other means of earning wages. Also, due to the possession of land, they were harassed and intimidated by the land-owning classes. In majority of the cases, the rural rich did not allow them to take possession of the allotted land and impose sanctions against them. The landowners, in collusion with the administration, took advantage of the loopholes in the legislation. They even planted branches of trees overnight in their fields and bribed government officers to register them as gardens which were exempted from the Ceiling Act. In many cases, the allottees were evicted from the land by violent means. Another related feature is the size of the family of different classes. The rural rich have mostly joint families with bigger size, and the rural poor have predominantly nuclear families with smaller size. The rural rich retain the joint families in order to prevent the division of the family property, especially land. Division of family is not considered to be good throughout India, as joint family is thought to be an ideal family. It is more significant in rural agricultural societies since it has major economic significance. The nature of family system of the rural rich has certain political implications as well. The rural poor do not feel the need to maintain a joint family since they do not have large land holdings which need to be preserved from fragmentation. Due to the increasing use of mechanization marked by the modern implements of agricultural technology, the traditional means of production have considerably declined. Though the rich peasants and the middle peasants have also faced the replacement of the traditional means of production by modern technology, it is the small peasants and poor peasants who have been severely affected by it. Their traditional means have become by and large redundant as they have to compete in agrarian economy with the owners of modern technology. Eventually, finding themselves unable to compete, they have lost control over the means of production except land and in certain cases, the poor peasants have lost even their land and have joined the ranks of the landless proletariat or fallen into the category of the miscellaneous. The incompatibility of the traditional means with the modern means and the unequal access of different classes to the means of production have accelerated the process of expropriation and differentiation of the peasantry. All those who do not partially or totally own all the necessary means of production depend upon those who own them. Thus, we see that since independence, a number of factors such as land reforms, demographic changes including migration, political process, public investment and other strategies and technological innovations have impinged on and have interacted with class relations in a regionally differentiated fashion. In comparison with the dominant landholders who came from the main proprietary caste, the middle and the rich peasantry show better economic performance both in terms of production and accumulation. They say that the pattern of the recent growth suggests a break with the past of built-in depressors and can be understood not only in terms of the spread of public investment and development of technology alone, but must be located in the changing matrix of class relations. Built-in depressors was a terminology coined by Daniel Thorner to explain the backwardness and feudal nexus which constrains growth. Due to the commercialization of agriculture, prosperity increased, which enabled many middle and backward caste peasants to improve and consolidate their political position. They responded because for them, political participation meant both a search for recognition of social status and an assertion of political identity to protect their economic gains. The effects of the process of conscientization to which political appeals and campaigns have contributed their share have helped to change the expectations of the poor villagers from despondency to hope. This probably is the key variable in explaining the turbulence of UP politics after mid-1980s. Thus, the question most relevant at this point is whether political polarization indeed has developed along caste lines or along class lines. Given the close relationship between caste and class, it becomes difficult to disentangle them from each other. Therefore, we see that the continuation of consensus politics at the national level came under severe strain. The continuation of existing development projects came under serious challenges due to the impact of the IMF conditionalities and the changing character of the Indian state since 1990s. Many of the protective institutions of the state like food subsidies, health expenses, credit-based development programs and job creation were either stopped or only partly implemented. The fallout of this development affected not only the very poor but also the lower and middle class, both in rural and urban areas. This led to an increasing sense of insecurity of the people and for emotional sustenance. Those affected went back to the primordial ties for support and sustenance. These primordial linkages or ties belong to caste and community thereby increasing the communal loyalties and patronage of those powerful within the caste and community. Most scholars prefer to see caste as a marker of Indian society. This view may be biased. The simple characterization of this polarization as casteist by observers, including scholars who usually belong to the privileged caste, may function as a shorthand for the condemnation and denunciation of a social steering which exploitive classes may wish to denigrate and to crush. Hence, the necessity to investigate whether the accusation of casteism holds. If one defines casteism in politics as one which requires people to stand for elections on the basis of articulated appeals to caste as a means of getting votes, then elections could be described as going the casteist way. It is the power motive which lies at the heart of the casteist angle. The public utterances of political leaders, for that matter, suggest that what their aim in organizing particular caste is to wrench power from parties which have been largely dominated by other castes. Thus, caste is ostensibly brought in as a weapon or a tool against political adversaries. It attempts to homogenize the electorates through ethnic identities having similar interest. In the final analysis, we look at a picture of community which has undergone turbulence and strife, which may appear to be communal, caste oriented, but at its heart lies matters basic to its people, which are socio-cultural and economic. It is in this struggle that power and politics have brought around several dramatic changes in values, opinions and attitudes of different people. However, how far has the old structure of power with its roots in upper caste and upper class hierarchy and dominance been shaken and can be truly assessed only over a period of time? Changes have been rampant, and as described and explained earlier, they have shaken the citadel of power of the old and brought in new elites in the shape of neo-rich peasantry belonging to the middle caste self-cultivators, those who were dynamic and had entrepreneurial skills. It is in this sense that some of the old elites have lost power at the cost of new emerging elites. The power dynamics still favors the rich and the powerful, but it may not be the old rich now. Subsequent land reform measures did little to reduce the hold of the major proprietary groups on land, but they accelerated the process of subdivision of holdings, thus compelling landlords to undertake direct cultivation. The share of SC households in land ownership also appears to have increased, even though this is chiefly poor quality land. This lecture, we hope that you have understood that the land legislation measures and the dynamism accompanying the Green Revolution has reduced the stark monopoly of the traditional proprietary groups and has intensified the economic competition between them and the emerging groups. The limited available evidence suggests that the rich and upper middle peasants, mainly belonging to the intermediate and backward caste, have shown more dynamism and have consolidated substantial gains in the last few decades. Prosperity of the intermediate or middle caste and classes is offset by the increasing pauperization of the lower caste and classes. Evicted tenants, those who have fallen into the category of wage laborers or the artisan classes. This has been due to several reasons, including low wages and uncertain employment. There has been development of new avenues of employment other than agriculture, and real wages have shown an increase. Even in the more backward regions, but the plight of the poor has not improved much. Hope you enjoyed the lecture. For more details, please read the text of this lecture properly and attend the questions in the end. Thank you.